No one is talking about how addiction is actually such an advantage in life, not a liability. Let's talk about it. Welcome to the Sunday Sober Snack. This is an offshoot of the Chasing Heroin podcast. My name is Janine. First thing I want you to do is actually write your name in the comments and if you're sober, what your sobriety date is. Welcome. You're in the right place. After 15 years of addiction that left me in and out of jail and homeless, I have now been clean and sober since January of 2015. And the hardest part about all of that was feeling like such a loser when I got sober. And it's really hard to rebuild our lives when we feel like a loser. And in the almost 10 years now that I've been sober, I have come to completely change my mind on that. And I think that my drug addiction has given me such an advantage in life. And I want you to feel the exact same way. My content is designed to inspire and empower addicts and alcoholics in recovery to create and live the highest vision that they have for their lives, because I think we are the lucky ones and we actually have an advantage in life. And we're going to talk about that. So today we're going to talk about the idea of private victories to have public victories. What does that mean? A really well-known business coach, Tiffany Peterson, works with millionaire CEOs, multimillionaire CEOs on their sales and marketing. The first thing she starts with, though, is their self-care and their lives. And initially, they're all kind of resistant to that idea, like, why? And there's all this convincing. And then finally, they look at, okay, whatever, this woman comes highly recommended. Do I need to work out more? Am I really neglecting a morning routine that I would like to do? Am I not eating as well as I could? So basically looking at an area of their life where they feel like they're not living up to what they would like to do. And they start there. And what happens is, as soon as they start actually focusing on their self-care routines and committing to whatever it is that they want to work on, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like fitness or nutrition, just something you need to do for yourself that you aren't doing, their sales begin to skyrocket. The internal success, the interior life success, leads to exterior life success and achievement. The idea here is that often the reason that you're not winning publicly is because you're not winning privately. It's this idea that, can I count on myself? Can I keep the commitments that I make to myself? It's self-integrity. Can I trust myself? And what happens is when we don't trust ourselves, we're giving out an energetic vibe of distrust of myself. And if I can't trust me, how could you trust me? And then also, we won't really achieve more than what we think we can handle. And so if we believe that we can only handle X amount, as is evidenced by not taking care of ourselves, not sleeping enough, every single day I want to get to the gym, but I never do. We're not going to manifest anything beyond what we already have, because we're showing ourselves daily, I can't actually handle what I currently have, because there's this really important piece of my life that I'm not able to maintain or work on. Energetically, we're not going to attract more if we believe that we can't handle it. And the CEOs that she works with have a really hard time understanding that. And it is kind of an esoteric idea, but we as addict alcoholics can completely understand that, get on board with that, and leverage that principle into our lives currently in recovery and sobriety. I want you to look back over your using history, your drinking history, and see if this feels familiar to you. The first year that I started doing heroin, I was really successful in fitness at that time. I was teaching at these really bougie resorts in Rancho Santa Fe, which is a really affluent area of San Diego. I had private clients. I was driving to their homes and I was driving to their compounds and mansions, and they were paying me a lot of money hourly to work with them and to train them. When I got strung out, I still had all those jobs. And there were a few jobs that I lost because I couldn't make it to work because I was waiting on the connect to get well. That happened with a few of them. But most of my clients just simply stopped renewing packages with me. And there are people I had worked with for years. They loved me. This one woman in particular, she gave me the nicest shoes I've ever had in my entire life. We wore the same size. And she gave me Chloe shoes, Christian Louboutins, the highest end designers that you could imagine. Manolo Blahniks, every other month, just a bag of designer shoes. It was amazing. And I'd worked with her for years, and she really cared for me. And just suddenly, one of the times that it was time to buy another 10-pack, she, was oh, I think I'm going to wait till we get back from vacation. And she just didn't hire me again. And that started happening with all of my clients. And I eventually lost all of my jobs. And when I hit rehab that time, I was telling people like, well, it wasn't that bad. I was working. I mean, a bunch of my clients weren't hiring me anymore, but like I was working, and I really didn't understand why I wasn't getting hired. But now learning this, the idea that private victories are absolutely necessary for public victories, it makes sense, because every day I told myself like I was going to stop using, right? In the beginning, when I first started doing heroin, every day it was like, okay, well, I'm not going to go do it again tonight, because I was like doing it with my ex-boyfriend. I'm not going to do it tonight. And then, I would. Or I was trying to detox through the methadone clinic. And I got all the way down to like the last couple of milliliters or whatever it is. And then I would use again anyways. I was letting myself down every single day. And though those women didn't know that, energetically, I was giving the vibe of, don't trust me. I don't trust me. How could you trust me? And they all found different trainers after like the years that I'd been working with them. And is that familiar to you? Like when you were drinking and using, were there massive failures on the outside that were unrelated to your using? Like seemingly, like maybe people didn't know, but things still just weren't working out. One of my favorite quotes from Oprah is, you don't get what you want, you get who you are. And I wasn't a polished professional trainer. I was a dope fiend who ate donuts at 7-Eleven every single day. I was skinny because I was strung out, but like I wasn't healthy. I wasn't projecting energetically a trainer vibe. Though I looked fine, like I had my nice clothes, and like I said, I was like skinny, I wasn't actually that. And when I heard about this principle, I looked back and thought, okay, that's what was happening. And so I want you to look back and ask yourself, does that ring true for you too? Were there times in your active addiction or drinking, or if you are still in that right now, that things just like aren't moving forward for you, especially if you're someone that like just drinks and it feels out of control, but you're not like how I got, right? Like it's really easy in that case to look around and say like, well, I'm not like that heroin addict, I have my car, I have this, but you still just can't make progress in your life in some area. Like that's probably why, because there's an internal inconsistency and there's a lack of self-integrity. There's an area where you're not coming through for you. Like you're showing yourself every day, you actually can't count on you, right? Like I can't count on myself when the chips are down. And that's an intense message to be sending back to yourself and projecting out. Conversely, in early recovery, no one knew I was sober. I didn't disclose my recovery until I had about 2 years. And at about 7 months, and some of you guys have heard this story, someone gave me a car. She didn't know I was in recovery, and she gave me a car. It was a client of mine where I taught fitness. My bosses at that time, like they couldn't pay me a ton per class, but they were always generous with me with like their time and like taking me out to eat, and the gifts and positive reviews and accolades I was getting from my clients at that time was just overwhelming. And again, when I heard this, I look back and I'm like, that's why I was taking care of something that I really needed to take care of. I was staying sober every single day. And even though those people didn't know that, it was being reflected in my external gains, like that woman giving me a car. My bosses did give me raises every once in a while. Like I was having a lot of external success for the first time in years, though I had always been a good fitness instructor. When I was actually keeping a commitment to myself of staying sober daily, I saw a lot of external success. And can you relate to that as well? So how do we leverage that information, that knowledge, that idea for more success now? I get super frustrated with my social media stuff. Like I want more followers, and not just because of the vanity of it. You really get so many more opportunities when you have a giant like following on Instagram, right? Like you just do. But way more important than that, I would like to make more money with some of the stuff that I do, like with this, like with YouTube or my speaking or whatever. And I really truly believe I have like the talent to back that up. Like I've spoken in really large settings and, I do have the podcast and like I have the talent to back that up. But I really feel like I hit a wall consistently. And when I heard about this idea, I thought, yeah, I'm still sober. Okay, 9.5 years. Like that's done. But, or not done, but you know what I mean? Like I'm on top of that. But I am crazy disorganized and cluttered in my home and my car. Like not a little bit disorganized, like embarrassingly disorganized, stuff everywhere, clothes everywhere. And it bothers me because that's a key component of this. If that didn't bother me, then it wouldn't be the thing I needed to work on, right? So like if you need to quit smoking because it really bothers you, or if you need to, get your credit rate back up because it really bothers you, like the thing that you really are looking for yourself to start doing consistently, exercise, maybe one of them, that's usually a big one. The thing that you're like, man, immediately when I started talking, you knew, like, fuck, like it's that for me, For me, it is the disorganization and the clutter at my house. Like, every day, every year, I think to myself, this is the year. It's always my New Year's resolution for years and years and years to be more organized in the house, to keep things neater. And I constantly let myself down with it. That's the thing I need to work on. And so for me, I'm going to take this to heart based on the prior evidence of, I really knew the thing I needed to do was get sober, right? Like I knew that. I just couldn't. When I finally did, I saw all that success that I wanted. Does it stand to reason that that's happening again? And I believe that it is. And so my commitment to you guys, to myself, is to get my room and home organized, even if that means not like posting every single day for a week so that I take care of some of this stuff. Because that's usually what happens, right? I'm like, well, I want these gains in these other areas. So this feels like such a waste of time, And I know that's a big one for fitness. Like I have clients that are like, well, I've got the kids and I've got this, and it just feels like such a waste of time to go to the gym. But like test this theory. And again, if you're an alcoholic addict in recovery, does it stand to reason that that was true for you too, right? Like when you finally got sober, did you start seeing some of that movement in the other areas? So what do you feel like you need to work on now? What was the thing that came up for you when I started talking and you thought, yeah, that's it for me? Like that's where I'm lacking self-integrity. This is the area where I'm not showing up for myself. I would love for you to share that with me, or on your own, privately, get really clear about that and start tackling that issue. And I'm going to do the same. And I would love to hear from you guys if you see any headway in your life and if you're able to tackle one of these areas and do it freely. Because I think sometimes too, it almost feels selfish, especially if you've got kids. It's like, well, I don't want to put this time into myself because, like I really do need to give them this time. But if we're not, it's cliche, but if we're not like filling up our own cup, right, we don't have anything to pour out to others. So I want you guys to check in. What is an area where you know that you could really like get a little bit more disciplined in and show up for yourself, based on the knowledge that when you were able to show up for yourself in sobriety, finally, you did see some movement in other areas. Hope that was helpful. I would love to hear what it is for you guys that you're going to start working on, and we'll see you next week.